When my older brother told me he was hiring someone to tutor me in statistics, I didn't expect a guy who looked like he belonged on the cover of Men's Health. I definitely didn't expect him to change my entire life. Let me backtrack. I'm Dylan, 21, third year of undergrad, and barely hanging on in my stats course. Numbers just aren't my thing. I'm more into film, lit, anything creative. But stats? Forget it. My GPA was teetering, and if I didn't pass this final, I'd be repeating the class and pushing back my graduation. Enter Jason, my older brother, Mr. MBA, finance job, gym 6 days a week. He means well, but he's one of those guys who helps by taking over. One night over dinner, he just drops it on me. I hired you a tutor, he said, like he was doing me the biggest favor in the world. He starts Monday. You what? I blinked. Without asking, you said you needed help. I meant maybe like a study group or YouTube or something. Jason just shrugged and kept eating. You'll thank me later. I didn't think much more of it until Monday evening. When the doorbell rang, I answered it in my usual home uniform. Sweats, messy hair, coffee in hand, ready to meet some awkward grad student in a cardigan. Instead, standing there was Sean. Sean looked nothing like what I expected. He was tall, maybe 6'1", with messy dark hair, a slight tan, and these hazel eyes that made it hard to look directly at him for too long. He had on a fitted black t-shirt and jeans that sat just right on his hips. Not cocky, just confident. Hey, he said, offering a firm handshake. You must be Dylan, I nodded, probably too fast. Yeah, come in. He stepped inside, took one glance around the living room and said, cool space. You into Tarantino? I followed his gaze to the Pulp Fiction and Reservoir Dogs posters on the wall. Yeah, movies are kind of my thing, he smiled. Nice. I'm more of a Kubrick guy, but I respect the classics. Okay, I thought. He's hot and has good taste. Great, just great. We sat at the dining table, and instead of diving into equations right away, he asked, so where exactly are you stuck? Everything? I said with a weak laugh. His grin was relaxed. Perfect. We'll start from scratch. For the next hour, he walked me through some basics. And I don't know if it was his calm voice or the fact that he never once made me feel dumb, but for the first time in weeks, stats didn't feel like a foreign language. Whenever I got something right, he'd say, exactly, you got it, with this warm look that made my chest do weird things. Then, halfway through solving a problem, our fingers brushed as we both reached for the calculator. It was nothing. A split second. But I felt it, that buzz. He didn't react, kept explaining the problem like nothing had happened. But for the rest of the session, I couldn't focus. My mind kept drifting to his voice, the way he leaned in when I was stuck, how his cologne smelled faintly like cedar and mint. When he finally packed up, he said, same time Wednesday? Yeah, I managed, trying not to sound too eager. Cool, he said, and that smile again. You're not as hopeless as you think, by the way. After he left, I just stood there for a full minute, heart pounding. I told myself it was just a crush, a dumb, fleeting thing. I mean, a guy like that, definitely straight, definitely not checking out his hopeless stats student. Still, I couldn't wait for Wednesday. Wednesday couldn't come fast enough. I tried to play it cool all day, woke up early, actually reviewed the notes from Monday, even cleaned up the apartment a little. Not that he'd notice, but still, my brother Jason teased me for it. Big night? He asked with a smirk as he walked past my room. Study session, I muttered. Sure, he said, and kept walking. By the time 6 p.m. rolled around, I was already on edge. When Sean knocked, I opened the door too quickly and immediately hated myself for seeming too eager. He stepped in wearing a gray hoodie and black joggers, and somehow looked even better than he had the first time. You look awake today, he said, grinning as he set his bag down. Barely. I've had like 4 coffees. Healthy, he joked, pulling out his laptop. We dove in again. This time, confidence crept in as I actually started getting the problems. He noticed too. "You're picking this up fast," he said, eyebrows raised. "Yeah, well, good teacher." He smirked, like he knew what he was doing to me. I wasn't sure if that was my imagination or something real. But the air between us, it felt different now. Still casual, but heavier somehow. We were halfway through solving a question when he leaned over, pointing at my paper. "You made a small mistake there. Look, right here." He was close enough that I could smell his shampoo. His arm brushed mine and didn't move. I looked at him, and for a second, just a second, he met my gaze like he wasn't in a rush to look away. That second stretched out, and then he cleared his throat, pulled back, and said, "Sorry, didn't mean to get in your space." "No, it's fine," I said too quickly. "Seriously." He nodded, then gave me a strange smile. "You're not what I expected, you know." I blinked. "What do you mean?" "I don't know. Jason made you sound like some mess of a kid who couldn't count to 10. "Wow. Thanks, Jason," Sean laughed. "I'm just saying. You're sharper than he gives you credit for. You just learned differently." That warmed something in me, not just because it was nice, but because it was coming from him. We went back to the worksheet, but the vibe had shifted. We were sitting closer now, and neither of us adjusted. It wasn't just studying anymore. There was a buzz in the air, low-key but undeniable. When the session ended, he packed up slower than last time. "You heading straight out?" I asked, even though I wasn't sure why I cared. He hesitated. "No rush. You mind if I hang a sec?" "Traffic's brutal," I shrugged, trying not to show how fast my heart was beating. "Sure. Want a drink or something? Water's good." I got us 2 glasses and joined him on the couch. He sipped his water slowly, then leaned back, scanning the room like he was thinking about something. "So," he said after a moment, "what do you actually want to do?" "With my life?" I laughed. Good question. Something with film. Writing, maybe directing." "Nice, you have that vibe." "What vibe?" He looked over at me, one corner of his mouth tilting up. "Creative, thoughtful, maybe a little tortured." I scoffed but smiled. "You've known me, like 4 days," he shrugged. "I'm observant." There was a beat of silence after that, long enough for me to realize how close we were sitting. Long enough for me to realize I hadn't looked away yet. Sean leaned forward, elbows on his knees, still holding his glass. "You got a boyfriend?" he asked suddenly. My breath caught. No." He nodded, still not looking at me. "Just curious." "Why?" He took a slow breath. "Jason said you were gay. I just wondered." My chest tightened, not because he'd said it, but because I didn't know what he was trying to get at. "Yeah, I am," I said carefully. He turned to me then, eyes steady, face unreadable. "Cool." We just looked at each other. I felt like I was standing at the edge of something, waiting to fall. Sean finally blinked, gave a small smile, and stood. "I should get going." I nodded, heart racing. "Yeah, sure." As he moved to the door, I followed, still feeling the buzz in the air. He paused in the doorway, hand on the frame, then turned to me. "Same time Friday?" "Yeah," I said. "Same time." He nodded, then added, almost too casually, "You're easy to talk to, you know that?" Before I could say anything back, he was gone, and I was left standing there, staring at the closed door, wondering what exactly just happened, and why I couldn't stop smiling. I didn't sleep much that night. I kept replaying everything. Sean's expression when he asked if I had a boyfriend, the weird softness in his voice when he said I was easy to talk to, that lingering look at the door before he left. Was I reading too much into it? Probably. But it didn't stop me from overthinking it into the ground. By Friday afternoon, I'd gone full spiral. I changed shirts 3 times, shaved even though I usually let my stubble grow out, and ended up cleaning the living room again, even though it didn't need it. Jason wasn't home. Some company happy hour or something, which weirdly made me more nervous. Like, now it was just me and Sean. No buffer. When he showed up, he was dressed in all black. Jeans, t-shirt, boots. Simple. Clean. Somehow made my throat go dry. "Hey," he said, stepping in. eyes flicking across the room. You reorganize? Maybe, I said, immediately regretting how awkward I sounded. He chuckled and set his bag down. You're ready, huh? Yeah, and I was. For the first half hour, anyway. We got through 2 practice tests. I only messed up once, and Sean didn't make me feel dumb about it. He never did. You've improved a lot, he said, tapping my notebook. For real. Thanks to you, I replied. Sean leaned back in the chair, arms crossed casually over his chest. Nah, you just needed someone to slow things down and explain them right. Your brother's a smart guy, but he moves fast. Not everyone's wired like that. I nodded, then looked at him. What about you? You wired like that? He looked thoughtful. Used to be. I thought everything had to happen quick. Fast results, fast wins. But lately, I don't know, I've been slowing down, paying attention. He looked at me a second longer than necessary. The silence between us started to stretch. I felt it again. That pull. That invisible tension. I like talking to you, he said suddenly. I blinked. Yeah? Sean nodded. Yeah. I mean, I've tutored a lot of people. But this feels different. Feels like you actually get me. I opened my mouth, then closed it again. What do you even say to that? Same, I said eventually. I don't know why. You just feel easy to be around. His jaw twitched like he wanted to smile but was holding it back. Then he stood up. Mind if I grab some water? Help yourself. He walked into the kitchen and I followed him, standing a little too close by the counter. He didn't seem to mind. He filled his glass slowly, like he was giving us both time to say something. I've been thinking about something, he said, eyes fixed on the faucet. Yeah? He turned and leaned against the counter. The other night, when I asked about the boyfriend thing, I froze. I wasn't trying to be nosy, he said. I just wanted to know. For me. There was a long pause before I asked, why? Sean looked at me. Really looked at me. Because I haven't felt like this around someone in a long time. My heart skipped. And that surprised me, he added, voice quieter now. Especially with a guy. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. Are you saying? I started, but couldn't finish. I don't know what I'm saying yet, he said honestly. I'm still figuring it out. But when I'm around you, I feel something. And I haven't been able to shake it. The room felt smaller suddenly, tighter. Sean took a slow step forward. I get if this is weird, he said. I'm your tutor. Your brother hired me. I know it's complicated. It's not weird, I said. My voice was steadier than I expected. Not to me. His eyes searched mine, as if trying to decide what I meant. Then he reached out, slow, tentative, and touched my hand. Just a brush of fingers. Light. Careful. But it was enough to send my heart into overdrive. Dylan, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. If this is crossing a line, tell me now. I didn't say anything. Instead, I stepped forward. Just enough to close the gap. Our foreheads almost touched. And for a second, we just stood there, breathing each other in. Then we heard the front door open. Sean stepped back immediately, like a switch had flipped. Jason's voice called out, Yo, Dylan, you still studying? I turned, pulse racing. Yeah, we're in the kitchen. Sean gave me a look, half regret, half something else, before downing the rest of his water. Jason walked in a moment later, loosening his tie. Hope he's not breaking your brain, he joked. Not yet, I said, trying to sound normal. Sean chuckled, then grabbed his bag. I should head out anyway. We're good for Monday? I nodded, not trusting myself to say more in front of Jason. Sean gave a small wave, then disappeared through the door. And I stood there, heart pounding, trying to pretend everything was still the same. But it wasn't. Not even close. The second Sean left, I had to act like everything was normal, Jason went straight to the fridge, popped open a beer, and flopped onto the couch like it was just another Friday. Meanwhile, I was still in the kitchen, gripping the edge of the counter like the floor might tilt. "You guys get a lot done?" Jason asked, half watching the game on TV. "Yeah," I said, voice a little too tight. "A ton." I escaped to my room after that, claiming I had to finish some reading, but really I just needed space. My chest was buzzing, not in a bad way, but like something inside me had finally clicked on. And now I couldn't turn it off. Sean had touched me. Sean had wanted to. And I'd let him. Actually, I wanted him to. Every second of it. I couldn't stop replaying the moment in the kitchen. His fingers brushing mine, the soft look in his eyes, that quiet, steady way he'd said, "I haven't felt like this around someone in a long time." It felt like the beginning of something, or maybe like the edge of a cliff I wasn't sure how to jump from. All weekend, I waited to hear from him. I didn't text first. I didn't know if I should. Maybe he was rethinking it, regretting it. I couldn't stop second-guessing myself. But then Monday came, and at exactly 6, there was a knock on the door. I opened it to find Sean standing there, wearing a black hoodie, hair a little messier than usual, eyes softer somehow. "Hey," he said. "Hey." He stepped inside, and something about the way he looked at me, like he wanted to say 1,000 things but didn't know where to start, made my chest ache. We didn't start studying right away. He set his bag down, glanced toward the living room, then toward my room. "Jason home?" "No, not tonight." He nodded slowly. "Cool." A weird silence settled between us, not uncomfortable, just full. "You want to talk?" I asked finally. Sean looked down, rubbed the back of his neck. "Yeah, I do. I've been thinking about Friday." "Me too." He looked up. "I wasn't planning that, you know. I've never." "Me neither," I said, even though that wasn't entirely true. I'd wanted something like that for a long time. I just never thought it would come from a guy like him. "I didn't expect to feel this way," he continued. "I thought tutoring would be just that. Get in, help out, go home. But you," he paused. "You caught me off guard." I didn't know what to say to that. So I didn't say anything. I just stepped forward, closer, like I had in the kitchen. And this time, he didn't move away. He let out a breath. "Can I kiss you?" My heart almost stopped. Yeah. It wasn't rushed. It wasn't some wild, impulsive moment. It was gentle, careful, a quiet yes to something we'd both been dancing around for days. His lips were soft, warm, and when his hand settled on my waist, I felt everything in me melt. We stood there in my room, the door still cracked open behind us, kissing like time had slowed down. His fingers brushed the side of my neck. Mine found the edge of his hoodie, gripping like I didn't want him to go anywhere. When we finally pulled apart, he rested his forehead against mine. "That okay?" he asked, breathless. I laughed, because it was more than okay. "Yeah," I whispered. "You?" "Very." We sat on my bed after that, side by side, legs touching, nothing dramatic. Just quiet and real. "I don't know what this is," Sean said after a while. "I'm still figuring things out." "Me too," I said. "But I'm glad you're here." He smiled, then leaned in and kissed me again. Slower this time, deeper, like he didn't have anywhere else to be. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I had to be anyone but exactly who I was. Not the student. Not Jason's little brother. Not the guy barely passing stats. Just me. And that was enough. After that night, things didn't get easier. They got more complicated. In all the ways that mattered, it felt right. Being around Sean, talking to him, touching him, kissing him. It was the kind of connection that made you feel like the world could stop spinning and you'd still be okay as long as they were right there with you. But outside of those quiet moments in my room, everything else was a mess. We didn't talk about it much. The labels, the future, the what are we's. Sean wasn't ready. I wasn't either. But that didn't stop us from finding excuses to be near each other. After tutoring, he'd linger, We'd sit on the couch, thigh to thigh, pretending to watch something, while really just stealing glances. Or he'd brush past me in the kitchen, his fingers trailing across my lower back like it meant nothing, like it didn't make me shiver every time. But we never let it slip when Jason was around. That part felt like a secret too big to carry. Jason still had no idea. He'd say things like, "Man, glad I found that tutor for you," or "Sean seems like a good guy, right?" And I'd have to nod and pretend like I wasn't picturing Sean's mouth on my neck 3 nights ago. It was killing me. And I could see it getting to Sean too. The way he would go quiet when Jason was in the room. The way his eyes flicked to me. Just for a second, like he was checking that I was still okay with all this. I was. And I wasn't. Because when you start to want someone in a real way, a private thing eventually isn't enough. One night, a week before my final exam, Sean came over for what was supposed to be another study session. But we didn't even open the books. I let him in, and he barely got a word out before he kissed me. Harder this time, like he was trying to burn the hesitation out of both of us. We ended up on my bed, our clothes half peeled off, our breaths sharp and uneven. His fingers were in my hair. Mine were under his shirt. It was messy and slow and electric. Afterward, we lay there in silence, both staring at the ceiling. "Dylan," he said eventually. "Yeah? I don't know how to do this." "Me neither." He turned his head, looking at me. "I want to keep seeing you. But I also know I'm your tutor. And Jason." "I know," I said. "I think about it every day. I don't want to be something you have to hide." That sentence hit hard. Because I didn't want that either. But I also didn't know how to bring it into the light. Not yet. Not with Jason. Not with the world. "I don't want to hide you," I said. "I just don't know how to explain this to everyone when I barely understand it myself." Sean nodded slowly. "Then maybe we take it slow. No pressure, just real." "Yeah," I said, turning toward him. "Real sounds good." We kissed again, softer this time, like a promise. For the next week, we kept things quiet but steady. He helped me prep for my final. I tried not to completely lose my mind every time Jason walked in the room. And on the night before the exam, after hours of review, Sean gave me a look I'll never forget. "You're gonna pass," he said confidently. "How do you know?" He stepped closer, grinning. "Because I've seen how hard you've worked. And because you're not the guy who started this class anymore. You're more than that now." He leaned in and kissed my forehead, and for a second, I didn't care if anyone saw. "Thanks," I whispered, "for everything." The next morning, I took the exam. It wasn't easy, but I knew what I was doing. For the first time all semester, I walked out of that classroom not feeling defeated. Later that night, when Sean came over, I didn't say anything. I just pulled him into my room, shut the door behind us, and kissed him like I meant it. Because I did. I passed. Barely, but I passed. When the results posted, I stared at the screen for a full minute, not sure if I was reading it right. Then I laughed, out loud. Like a real shaky, relieved laugh. Sean was the first person I told. He was at work when I texted him a screenshot of my final grade. He didn't reply right away, but 10 minutes later, I got a message. "Be there in 30. I'm bringing ice cream." Jason was out again. Weeknight drinks with coworkers or whatever. So by the time Sean showed up, it was just me, pacing the living room like a maniac. He didn't even knock, just let himself in and tossed a pint of mint chip on the counter before pulling me into a hug. "I told you," he said into my shoulder. "You were right." He pulled back just enough to look at me, still holding on. "I'm proud of you." I didn't know what to say to that. Not because I didn't believe him, but because no one had said those words to me in a long time. Maybe ever. That night, we curled up on the couch together, the TV on in the background, the ice cream forgotten on the coffee table. His arm was around my shoulder. My head rested against him. It was the most peaceful I'd felt in weeks. And then Jason came home. We heard the door click open and froze like we'd been caught robbing a bank. Sean sat up straight. I shifted off him so fast I nearly knocked over the coffee. Jason walked in, already loosening his tie. "Hey," he said, glancing between us. "Didn't know you were still studying." Sean cleared his throat. "Just dropped by to check in on Dylan's final." He passed. Jason grinned, completely unaware of the fact that the room was practically vibrating with panic. Hell yeah! I knew you'd pull it off. Good shit, man. He crossed the room and clapped me on the shoulder. I smiled weakly. Thanks. You sticking around for dinner? He asked Sean. Sean glanced at me, then back at Jason. Nah, I've got to head out soon. Just stopped in to say congrats. Jason nodded and headed toward the kitchen. Well, if you change your mind, there's pizza. Sean looked at me again, this time a little more serious, and mouthed, Later? I nodded. He left soon after, and I sat at the table with Jason, eating slices of pepperoni and trying to pretend that my heart wasn't still racing. It was clear we couldn't keep this up. Not like this. The hiding, the pretending, the half conversations in my own house. The next day, I texted Sean. Me, I think I need to tell him. Sean, you sure? Me, no. But I don't want to lie anymore. He didn't respond right away. When he did, all he said was, I'll be there. That night, we sat Jason down. I don't even remember how I started. My hands were sweaty, my throat dry. I think I just blurted it out. Sean and I are seeing each other. Jason blinked. Wait, what? I repeated it, slower this time. We've been seeing each other. It kind of just happened. For a second, he didn't say anything. Then he rubbed his face with both hands. Wow. Okay. Okay. Sean stayed quiet beside me, letting me take the lead. I appreciated that more than he'll probably ever know. Jason looked between us. So when you say, seeing each other, I nodded. I mean, dating. Or something close to it. He exhaled, leaned back, and just stared at the ceiling for a moment. This is a surprise. I mean, I didn't even know you were into guys. Yeah. Well, surprise. He looked at Sean then. You serious about this? Sean met his eyes. Yeah, I am. Jason didn't say anything for a long time, but then he nodded slowly, like he was trying to process everything all at once. Okay, he finally said. I don't totally get it, but if you're happy, then I guess I'm good with it. I think I exhaled for the first time in 10 minutes. Thanks, I said. He pointed a finger at Sean. But if you break his heart, I swear. I won't, Sean said, cutting him off, and I believed him. We didn't talk much after that. Jason went back to his room. Sean and I just stood there for a second, still trying to believe it was over. You okay? He asked. Yeah, I said. Actually, yeah. Then I reached for his hand, right there in the hallway, and I didn't let go. Things got better after that. Not perfect. Not suddenly all figured out, but better. Telling Jason had lifted this weight I didn't realize I'd been carrying, and once it was out in the open, something shifted between me and Sean. Like we'd been tiptoeing around this thing between us, scared we'd crack it open too soon. And now, we didn't have to hold back anymore. We started spending real time together. Not just stolen hours during study sessions, or late-night kitchen whispers. Actual time. Going out for walks, grabbing coffee, staying in to watch terrible movies, and not caring when we never made it to the end. He still tutored me occasionally, mostly because I liked the way he explained things. I already passed stats, but now it was just something that gave us an excuse to sit close, to pretend we were just student and tutor again, before things had gotten so real. But I liked the realness. One night, we were at his place. It was small, just a studio with a tiny balcony that looked out over the street, but it felt cozy in a way that made me want to stay longer than I ever planned. We were lying on his bed, both of us staring at the ceiling fan like it held the answers to life. My head was on his chest. His fingers lazily traced circles on my shoulder. You ever think about what happens next? I asked, not even sure what I meant. Sean was quiet for a beat. Yeah, I think about it a lot. I sat up a little to look at him, and he shrugged, looking suddenly unsure. I've never done this before, not like this, with a guy. I didn't plan any of it, but now I can't picture not having it. That made my stomach flip in the best way. I feel the same, I said. Like, before you, I thought I knew what I wanted, and then everything shifted. He reached up and brushed my hair back from my forehead. You scare the hell out of me, you know that? I blinked. Me? Yeah, he said softly. Because you make me want to be honest in a way I never have. You make me want more. I didn't know how to respond. Not with words, so I kissed him instead. Later, when we were curled up under the blanket, I asked, do you think we'll ever stop feeling like we're making it up as we go? Sean laughed quietly. Probably not. And weirdly, that felt like the most comforting answer in the world. The next few weeks passed in a blur of finals, late nights, and summer plans forming. Jason never brought it up again, but something had changed in his tone. He was a little softer with me, more relaxed around Sean. One night, after Sean had left, Jason knocked on my door. Hey, he said, standing awkwardly in the hallway. Hey, I just wanted to say I'm glad you told me. I know I didn't react great, but I'm cool with it, with you two. Thanks, I said. That means a lot. He hesitated again, and for what it's worth, he's a good guy. Yeah, I smiled. He really is. And that was the moment I realized I had something real here. Not some secret, not some confused maybe, but something honest, something worth keeping. Summer came fast. Finals were over. Grades were in. I wasn't failing anything for once. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was scrambling just to stay above water. Sean and I had fallen into something that felt solid. Natural. He wasn't just the guy who tutored me anymore. He was the guy who knew my coffee order, who texted me dumb memes during the day, who kissed me slow when I was overthinking everything, and told me I wasn't too much when my brain got loud. We spent more nights together, sometimes at his place, sometimes mine. And even when we were apart, I felt like we were tethered. Jason, weirdly, became kind of chill about it all. He never got emotional or sappy. He wasn't that guy, but he'd include Sean in plans, ask if he was coming to dinner, even offered to lend him his PS5 one night like it was no big deal. It was all surprisingly normal. One night in July, Sean and I drove out to this little overlook outside town. Just trees and quiet and stars. We sat on the hood of his car, the air warm and thick with summer. I used to come here to think, he said, looking out over the dark hills. Before I even met you. What'd you think about? He smiled softly. What I wanted. Who I was. I nodded. Did you figure it out? Some of it, he said. Then he turned to me. The rest came after you. I didn't say anything, just leaned over and kissed him. Slow, unhurried, like we had nowhere else to be. Because we didn't. We talked a lot that night, about the future, about what came next, about how we'd take it one step at a time. He wasn't going anywhere, neither was I. And honestly, that was all I needed to hear. Later, lying beside him under the stars, he brushed his fingers through my hair and whispered, "You changed my life, you know." I didn't answer right away. Just let those words sink in. Then I looked at him and said, funny, I was just about to say the same thing. And it was true. Because I thought Sean was just going to help me pass a class. But he helped me find something way more important. Myself. And, somehow, him too.